Having focus is essential for performing any task with quality, efficiency, and depth. However, we live in an age of constant distractions, especially with the overuse of social media, phone notifications, instant messages, short videos, and even the habit of multitasking. These interruptions fragment our attention, lower our productivity, and make deep thinking harder. Focus is like a muscle. The more we train it, the stronger it becomes. To develop it, it's important to create environments and habits that support concentration, like turning off notifications, setting specific times to use technology, and setting clear goals for each work or study session. Have you ever noticed how some days feel longer than others? It's not magic, it's focus. When you're truly focused on a task, your mind stops jumping from thought to thought and locks onto a single objective. This drastically cuts down the time needed to finish what you're doing. You don't spend 2 hours on something that could be done in 30 minutes. You go straight to the point without distractions. Focus eliminates wasted energy on irrelevant things, making you more efficient. The less time you spend getting distracted, the more time you gain for yourself. It's as if, by choosing where to place your attention, you're creating time. And that extra time can be used on what truly matters. Modern authors have explored the power of focus in depth. One of the most influential voices is Newport, author of the bestseller Deep Work: Rules for Focused Success in a Distracted World. Newport argues that the ability to focus deeply for long periods of time is like a superpower in today's economy. He wrote, "The ability to perform deep work is becoming increasingly rare. At exactly the same time, it is becoming increasingly valuable." In other words, those who master focus not only work better, they become more competitive. Newport says that by training the brain to stay focused, you strengthen your mind and reduce anxiety. Focus, therefore, is not just a productivity tool. It's a lifestyle that leads to excellence and mental peace. For him, eliminating distractions is a deliberate act of protecting your creativity, your time, and your ability to think deeply. Focus isn't a skill limited to professional settings. In fact, it's an essential ingredient for living with more presence in everything we do. When we apply focus to the small tasks of daily life, like cooking a meal, organizing the house, or even talking to someone we care about, we take a step toward a more conscious and meaningful life. Cooking with attention, for example, turns preparing a meal into a moment of care and creativity. Cleaning the house with attention to detail makes every corner reflect your energy and intention. Focus frees us from autopilot and connects us to the present. It's not just about doing things faster, but about doing them with more quality, more presence, and more purpose. Daniel Goleman, the psychologist who popularized emotional intelligence, also explored the science of focus. In his work, he argues that attention is like a muscle. It can be trained. He says, if we barely use it, it weakens. But if we use it well, it gets stronger and improves over time. In the following quote, he notes that one of the biggest obstacles to focus today is technology. There are the fundamentals of attention, the cognitive muscle that allows us to follow a story, complete a task, learn, or create. In some ways, as we'll see, the endless hours young people spend staring at electronic devices might help them acquire specific cognitive skills. But there are serious concerns about how those same hours may lead to deficits in essential emotional, social, and cognitive abilities. We're connected all the time. The phone vibrates, a notification pops up. The sound of a message grabs our attention. And without realizing it, we're pulled into a new conversation, a new post, a new distraction. Social media like Instagram, TikTok, and WhatsApp weren't designed to make life easier. They were designed to capture as much of our time and attention as possible. And the problem is, while we're glued to these screens, we stop noticing what's happening around us. Conversations with family turn into background noise. The present moment goes unnoticed. Little by little, we start living more on the screen than in reality. This disconnection has serious consequences. Our relationships begin to suffer. Productivity drops. The mind becomes restless, jumping from one stimulus to another, unable to focus on just one thing. And the more we use these technologies, the harder it is to return to focus. The brain gets used to chasing quick rewards, likes, messages, short videos, and loses patience for deep, quiet, and time-consuming tasks. Important things like studying, listening to someone attentively, or even reflecting on our own lives start to feel boring or too difficult. We live in a constant state of distraction. On top of that, this overload of stimuli exhausts our minds. Even when we're not doing anything physical, we feel tired, anxious, and strangely empty. That's because the brain wasn't built to handle constant information bombardment. Attention is a limited resource, and when it's constantly drained by quick-fire stimuli like notifications and social media ads, we lose the ability to choose what we truly want to focus on. We end up reacting to whatever shows up, instead of acting with clarity and purpose. And at this pace, life starts to slip away. Because we're only halfway present, torn between the real world and the next notification lighting up our screen. One of the most important forms of attention is selective attention. It works like an invisible filter that the brain uses to decide what to pay attention to among the thousands of stimuli around us. Imagine being at a party full of people talking at the same time. Suddenly, someone says your name across the room, and even with all that noise, your mind immediately locks onto that voice. That's selective attention at work, the ability to ignore what doesn't matter and focus only on what does in that moment. It's a natural mechanism, essential for survival, that helps us make decisions, solve problems, and interact effectively with the world, even in chaotic environments. But this ability has limits. Selective attention works like a spotlight. It illuminates one thing but leaves others in the dark. When we focus too much on one thing, we might miss important information outside our field of attention. And that's where the danger lies. In a world dominated by screens, notifications, and endless content, our focus is constantly being hijacked by stimuli designed to capture attention, even when they have no real value. As a result, we lose the ability to consciously choose where to direct our attention. We start reacting to what's flashier, more urgent, louder, instead of what truly matters for our goals, relationships, or well-being. Selective attention also shows how focus shapes our reality. What we pay attention to becomes our world. If we focus only on problems, we see more problems. If we look for opportunities, we start seeing more possible paths. What we ignore ceases to exist for us, even if it's right there, in front of us. That's why developing conscious selective attention is essential for a fuller life. It's about choosing where to place our mental energy. It's about taking control of our own mind instead of letting it be controlled by algorithms, ads, or passing distractions. Remember this message. Whoever controls their attention controls their life. Goleman notes that the ability to stay focused on a target and ignore everything else operates in the brain's prefrontal region. The specialized circuit in this area amplifies the strength of the signals we want to focus on, like reading an email, and weakens the signals we choose to ignore, like people chatting at the next table. Since focus requires us to override emotional distractions, our neural structure for selective attention also includes emotion inhibition. This means that those with better focus are relatively immune to emotional turbulence, more capable of staying calm during crises, and able to keep their direction despite life's emotional storms. Mastering focus is not just about mental discipline. It's a gateway to emotional resilience and clarity of action. Goleman divides focus into three main areas: internal focus, meaning self-awareness; focus on others, what he calls empathy; and external focus, attention to the world around us. He argues that mastering these three types of focus is essential for both personal and professional success. To understand the real power of focus, we must go beyond the simplistic idea of paying attention and dive deep into these three foundational types of focus. They operate like mental compasses, guiding our energy inward, toward others, and outward into the world. Ignoring any one of them is like trying to navigate life without one of your senses. Your understanding becomes unbalanced and incomplete. Internal focus, perhaps the most overlooked, is actually the most essential. It's the ability to turn your attention inward, understand your emotions, thoughts, and impulses. It's the foundation of self-awareness. Someone with strong internal focus can recognize when fear, pride, or anxiety is taking control. And from that understanding, make more conscious choices. Knowing how your emotional system works gives you the power to take control of your actions instead of running on autopilot. And in today's world, where we're constantly reacting to external stimuli, developing internal focus is almost like a superpower, one that helps you remain centered in a chaotic environment. Focus on others is the key to empathy, collaboration, and building meaningful relationships. This type of focus means perceiving not just what people say, but what they feel, what they can't express with words, and what their actions silently reveal. When you pay close attention to facial expressions, tone of voice, and small gestures, you're engaging in real listening. And it's at this level that genuine connections are born. Goleman shows that effective leaders, brilliant educators, and successful professionals are, above all, experts in focus on others. They understand that people aren't just numbers or job titles, they're complex, moving worlds. Developing this focus doesn't just make you more empathetic, it makes you more influential. Because the one who understands others' emotions can influence without force. Empathy stops being a vague virtue and becomes a powerful, practical tool. Lastly, external focus is our ability to understand how the world around us operates. Not just the physical environment, but the systems, patterns, and trends shaping reality. It's strategic focus, the wide-angle view. While internal focus gives us direction, and focus on others gives us connection, external focus gives us context. People with strong external focus can see beyond the immediate. They notice opportunities before others, adapt faster to change, and think systemically. Imagine an entrepreneur who understands not just their business, but the market, the culture, and the invisible forces about to reshape their field. Or an economist who sees how law, economics, and society intertwine. That's the power of external focus. It turns information into wisdom. Ultimately, true personal and professional success doesn't come from looking only inward or outward, but from balancing all three types of focus, like tuning an instrument to create harmony between mind, emotions, and reality. Now that you understand the power of focus, comes the most important part. Don't leave it only in theory. Knowledge that doesn't turn into practice is just more worthless information. So here's a simple but transformative challenge. Start practicing the three types of focus. Practicing internal focus means learning to observe your own thoughts and emotions attentively and without judgment. This starts with conscious self-observation, taking a few minutes throughout your day to ask yourself what you're feeling and why. Another powerful tool is keeping a journal of your emotions and thoughts. It helps you identify internal patterns and make self-awareness clearer and more practical. Additionally, mindfulness meditation strengthens the ability to notice what's happening in your mind without being ruled by impulses or automatic reactions. Through these practices, you develop the ability to act with more awareness, balance, and intention in everyday life. It's a subtle but powerful shift, from reacting to choosing, and in that space of choice lies your greatest power. In your next interaction with anyone, at work, in a relationship, or even with a stranger, practice focusing on the other person by being fully present. Listen attentively. Observe facial expressions, voice tones, and gestures. Instead of thinking about how you'll respond, just listen. Truly listen. When you do this, something powerful happens. The other person feels seen, heard, and understood. Try to sense what they're feeling behind the words. In conflicts, try to identify hidden emotions like fear or pain. In everyday interactions, remember that everyone carries invisible stories, and for that reason, we should never judge. By developing this kind of active empathy, not only do you improve your relationships, but you also deepen your own self-awareness. Also, practice external focus by stepping out of autopilot and starting to see the world as it really is. A living, constantly evolving system that influences your decisions, behavior, and even emotions, often without you realizing it. The next time you face a decision, big or small, ask yourself, what's happening around me that might influence this? Look beyond your bubble. What technological trends are changing how people work, learn, and connect? What social movements are gaining momentum? How might changes in the global economy affect your career, your business, or your way of life? This isn't paranoia. It's strategic awareness. It transforms you from a passive observer into an active participant in shaping your future. Those who understand the bigger picture play the game better. Those who observe the whole make wiser choices. And in a world where everything changes constantly, reacting is not enough. You need to think before you act, grounded in the context you're in. Start small. Read one news story a day that goes beyond entertainment. Pay attention to political debates, even if you're not a fan. Observe how companies are adapting to climate change, how artificial intelligence is reshaping careers, how cultural values are evolving. All of this affects your life, directly or indirectly. From the cost of your groceries to the future of your profession, from social values to your personal role in the world. External focus is like having a radar. It's training your eyes to see trends before they become demands, And the more you practice, the better prepared you become to face change, anticipate challenges, and seize opportunities. Living with external focus means no longer just existing in the world, but in every task, no matter how mundane or routine it may seem, choose to do it with total focus. Whether it's washing the dishes, cleaning your room, replying to a message, taking a shower, or even making coffee, do it with presence. No phone nearby, no thoughts about what's next, no multitasking. Just be there. Observe every detail. Feel the rhythm of the activity. Notice how your mind tries to drift away and gently bring it back. This small exercise is powerful because this is where you start training your focus for real, not by waiting for the perfect moment, but by using your routine as your practice field. And once you finish a task done with full attention, do something even more important. Notice how you feel. How was your concentration? Did you notice more details than usual? Was your mind calmer? Did you feel satisfaction in doing it well? That's what happens when you tune into the present. Even in a simple act, you'll notice a difference. When you begin to use focus in everything you do, time seems to slow down. Anxiety fades. And best of all, you feel a subtle pride for having done something well. Sound small? It's in those small moments that transformation begins. Every activity done with focus strengthens your capacity to live with intention. And living with intention is living with power. So give it a try. Afterward, tell yourself, or even us if you'd like, what it felt like to be truly present, even if just for a few minutes. And never forget, whoever masters their attention, masters their life.